Hello again, with a new episode of all things from my cardboard box. So this time it's about my time at Hélivisions Productions, which has gone through multiple logos and at some point renamed itself Doki Denki Studio. So I don't have as many things from Hélivisions as I have from Arkane Software and Arkane Game. The main reason is that it was probably the most chaotic place I ever worked. So I've not spoken yet of Adeline, it's going to be one of the next episodes, but basically we left Adeline when the company decided to not do any PlayStation game anymore. And my friend Olivier was looking for a way out and somewhat found a contact who said that Héliovisions, who at the time was not doing video games, they were only doing video, post-production, advertisement, in computer graphics, something like that, wanted to expand to more multimedia things. And they started by hiring Denis Dufour, a programmer from Infogram, who had worked on an adventure game called Prisoner of Ice and other things. He wanted to do some role-playing game. And in particular, he wanted to experiment with voxel technology. So you have to remember that this is 97, so basically the target computer was various type of Pentium to Pentium 2, K6 CPU, something like that. Windows 95 had finally replaced DOS, but there were still some DOS machine running, so there were some interesting time. We were using Visual Studio 4, probably one of the most buggy versions ever made, or was it Visual 3, I don't remember. So anyway, they had started to work, and Olivier visited the building, had a demonstration of HExplore, discussed with Denis, and then he sent his resume to Mustafa Elan, the boss of the company, saying what he had done. So that's what he sent. So yes, I'm going to do it simple and fast. I will try to skip over the details. I started to seriously work on the Atari ST as demo maker. Then I worked for HExplore Software, Marseille Société company in Gemnos, which unfortunately did not manage to stay alive because of some problem with the logiciel publisher. I've wrote different stock handling software, I guess you don't care about, and then I moved to Amiga and Falcon 030. Then I entered Arkane Software starting 1994. I've been programmer on a Little Big Adventure on PC, then the 32X adaptation, project stopped at 20%. Then I moved to a very promising platform, PlayStation. Please note that I was one of the first European developers. I was programmer on Time Commando on PlayStation, and I also made various tools like the one exporting 3D Studio, Z-Buffer, blah blah blah. So he managed to negotiate some interesting deal and talk about me, since we were from the same team. And then myself decided to ask him, and we ended up being hired. With specifically the hiring of Monsieur Michael Pointier is motivated by making a task of making a PlayStation game. So we wanted explicitly to bank on our knowledge at the time, because it was better to do PlayStation games than PC. And what we wanted to do was Swifty. So Swifty was our own project. Basically, imagine a mix between Ratchet and Clank and Mario 64. It was before Ratchet. with a little character, a girl, which is a half robot, which can switch limbs, or legs or arms, to do various things. So you had the rocket launcher, the thing to climb, various type of shoes that you can go faster or climb mountains or swim faster. So there is a bunch of FAQs, things like that, about physics, geometry, camera angle. Will there be some discussions, bonus stages, things like that, and the various type of movement, what you can do, the various way you can move around, list of control mappings, various type of jumps, etc. So there's not much remaining of Swifty. Basically, the development was taking too long, and so the Héliovisions was starting to have money problem. Actually, they had money problem all the time. So they negotiated, trying to develop the Smurf. So we ended up having the Smurf on PlayStation. As you can see here, I have some various versions in English, French, and Spanish, which is a very, very standard platformer for children, so nothing really incredible. Looks like that one doesn't want to close. Not sure if we can. Yeah, we have some pictures here. So you have the usual, the Smurf in the volcano, the Smurf village, Smurf forest, the Smurf bridge, and things like that. The funny thing is, the designer of the game wanted to have his creative freedom. Sorry if you're watching, but I already told you. And he did not want to have his idea blurred by watching other versions of the game. As it happened, he managed to redo a perfectly exactly one-to-one version of the SNES, Super Nintendo version of the Smurf, with the same level, more or less in the same order. Because there's so much you can do about the Smurf, and well, there you go. So, in terms of design, I guess it would have been a good idea to actually watch what they did. The game itself was the only PlayStation game released. It was actually released after I left the company because there were many problems, which I will talk about later. But we made a lot of tech, and because the company was lacking money, we had to basically write our own PlayStation emulator. Because we did not have enough dev kits for the entire team. So we ended up doing something. Let me see. I found a list of all the stuff which was annoying me. So at some point we had 3 weeks. We were 3 weeks late. There were many discussions about the type of way we will be scripting, and other technical choice should be in flat with split screen. The fact that some of the programmers were not working 100% for Eurovision, but were doing side jobs for Game Squad, which obviously when everybody is already crunching it does not help. The mail, internet and printer were not actually working correctly very often, that I was lacking 12,000 francs since the arrival at Héliovisions, that there were some stupid money choices on the equipment, like having big towers with 300 watts power supply, which were underpowered, and not having second PCs for building assets. Fixing meetings instead of making the meetings before taking decisions, annoying noise, food being stolen in the fridge, stuff which was taken and not put back at the right place, people taking the PlayStation games on joypad so you could not find them, no responsible person in charge of production and managing, So what I said about the Smurf, that the design was basically a copy of a Super Nintendo version. Internal problems with a friend. That there were no milestone. And that the company itself had a very disinvolved attitude. Ha ha ha, we are going to sell millions. And basically finishing that, well, I can't work anymore. I'm close from nerve crisis, can't sleep, and remaking the world with Alex and Lionel. And try to smile with people from other studio where to say that yes, everything's fine. So yeah, actually I've forgotten about that. So let's see. This is basically the world editor. So it was a custom-made UI framework. We had two versions, one working in direct draw and one using 3dfx Voodoo cards. So everything was rendered real time all the time with windows you could move under, over, slide, and thing. And all the rest behind is actually a PlayStation GPU software emulator. So that's the landscape. More landscape with some texture test. So we had a wireframe editor and could import, export from various 3D Studio and things like that. First level with Swifty. Some trees. Waterfall with texture cycling animation. Some yeah, island coast. So yeah, we have a bunch of things like that. And I think yes. So I have a little bit more things like a part of the UI framework with a custom mouse cursor. So this was a more advanced variant with gradient, nicely shaded buttons on the scrollers and things like that. On the first version also with checkboxes and radio buttons and group box. So it almost looks like Windows, except it's a real-time displayed on screen. Multi-language support built-in. Edit field with advanced editor. And there were our control panel with the glib logo rotating around. This tool is using the glib, programming team, Olivier Lermite, Geometry Engine, high-level PSX emulation, Michael Pointier, graphics interface, 2D and 3D display, Vincent Terraillon, Windows programming, research and development, Cyril Meunier and Denis Dufour, suggestions and advice. And with settings for the interface, keyboard, mouse, paddles, debugging, information, help, etc. So I have the tools, and technically they could run. The problem is that we were using a direct draw. I don't have a Voodoo anymore. I'm not even trying to run on a modern Windows. And they were not only running direct draw, they were running direct draw in 16-bit mode, which is not supported by some graphic cards anymore, at least not on my laptop. And if you don't run in 16-bit, it crashes horribly after displaying a warning message. So yeah, for the Smurf, so we reuse the tech from Swifty, so we made our level editor and PAM, the animation modeling tool, which basically was a kind of mini 3D studio specialized for small object with a low polygon count, but rendered in real time using PlayStation Guru shaded, textured, with the same artifact on display. So it was not pretty, but it allowed people to work, and it took some months to get all working. And that's about all for the Smurf. Regarding HExplore, I have a bit of ads remaining. 4 heroes united against evil. So as I said, it's a voxel, and it can rotate 360 degrees. Yeah, there is a small demonstration here. So visually it's not awesome because of the technical constraint. So basically what the designers managed to do, the graphical designer I mean, is kind of insane. They were doing all the graphics using Deluxe Paint, modeling 3D voxel graphics in Deluxe Paint. So they were limited to 256 colors, and they were using, and I really wish I had some data remaining because it's very hard to explain. Basically, think of an MRI scanner. So you go to an MRI and you get this machine that does ding 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 around your head, and it takes slices of your brain. And when you put all the slices together, you get a 3D volume. So HExplore, they did the same thing, except instead of having slices, they have like some kind of sticks. On each stick contained a bunch of color. That's basically a small, like if you were doing some ice samples in the Arctic, you put, you cut it, and you have a stick made of glass ice, with different layers. Some are white, some are darker, depending of the type of weather they had at the time. And basically they designed a few, actually 128 of these with different set of colors representing the various part of each bitmap. So in that one you will have 1 pixel of blue, then 4-5 pixels of nothing, because it's a bridge with some area under, then 3-4 yellow brown pixels for the bridge, and then some empty one. And then they would do that for each part of each wood stick, and then they will say, here you are going to use the stick number 1, number 2, number 3, number 1, number 2, number 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and the engine will take that and rebuild the 3D pictures. And they had no way to visualize that in real time, and they did some absolutely insane elements, like this boat. It's not really visible, but it has an actual fishing net going through it with all the knots and ropes, and it was all modelized like that manually. It's like pixel art in 3D, except you don't see the picture at the same time. Completely insane. Okay, the ads. I don't happen to have the game anymore. For some reason the box disappeared. I have some of the playable demos, but I have the complete game that we got in a magazine after it kind of failed. And it failed for many reasons, including the fact that Infogram is probably one of the worst publishers in the universe. Saying they were greedy would be an understatement. Basically, for what I remember, so if I'm wrong, please tell, Héliovisions had negotiated a minimum number of sales that should put in the shop, and was supposed to have a profit based on what Infogram will earn from that. And Infogram managed to do some complicated structure where it was not actually Infogram selling the game, but it was like a subsidiary, so well, basically a lot of money was lost, and legally nobody was responsible. So yeah, that was kind of a wonky time. Later they switched to the name Doki Denki, tried to do a game called Captain Rezo, which was a weird character with a red nose that when he was in contact with electricity would light up, a bit like this game where you have to do some surgery on a body without touching the a conductive area. There were a lot of weird ideas. They bought some strange hardware on auctions, like instead of using a Windows NT server running on Intel, they use one using, what was it? Another processor architecture, I don't remember. One of the 2 or 3 supported by Windows NT, but there were no software running for that, so it was a pain. They got themselves some Silicon Graphics O2 for doing some special video editing. This thing costed a fortune. At some point they ran out of cash, and instead of spreading, so could not really pay the salaries. So instead of asking the biggest salaries to make an effort, they were so scared of losing their programmers that they instead slashed the salary of the graphic artists, which were already struggling, while not touching my own or Olivier's one. It was crazy. One thing for which Hélivisions is going to be remembered, though, is parties. There were regular parties, so I showed the other time the flyers for the Eden anniversary, but Hélivisions every New Year's was having a huge party in the building. And the building was huge as well, because it was a former TV studio from the Lyon TV6 channel or something like that. The only problem is that there were no insulation at all. It was single glaze glass, and it was a corrugated rooftop. So during the summer it was hell. It was so warm. So yeah, a good time. Oh, and I spoke about the debugging option. We had bought a bunch of Hercules graphic cards on the monochrome screens on each of our PC. You could still do that on Windows 95, 98. Had the Hercules card, and we could write directly in the memory of the graphic card on the display text debugging information like the number of polygons, frame rate, amount of memory, on a secondary screen on all our old machines, which was very, very practical. I'm sure there were other things about Héliovisions which I can't remember. At some point the company bankrupt, and some people created another studio which I don't believe survived either. Yes, there were also some struggle between the teams because they wanted to grow. So they had one team working on HExplore, one team working on the PlayStation, and then the Sega announced the Dreamcast, which, by the way, I found another goodie. So I have a Dreamcast clock, which is still working, but you don't put the battery in it. So they were looking at the Dreamcast, and they were trying to find some new talent for the Dreamcast team, and they've been to a demo party in France called Volcanic Party 4, and I was there to present some Arx game, and they decided to come in and look at who will be there as a PC people who would be interested. And there were a small group of PC demo maker working with one superhero programmer on a bunch of designers who released some relatively clean and impressive 3D show. And they made them a job offer. That became the new team. I forgot the name of them. All I know is that there were some clash, because we were old school assembler and C programmers, and they were, C++ is the future. And well, yes, you've done game, but you're old people and you don't know what you are doing, and you are passing the future, and the future is going to pass over you. So they were not wrong on the future. Yes, C++ is now the de facto language, but where they were wrong was about the quality of compilers and the fact that the hardware was not there yet. So they spent a lot of time doing some editors and with plugins and some pretty impressive things, but as far as I know, they never released the game. And then a few months later, I was out and I joined Eden for actually working on the Rally 2 Dreamcast. So I ended up doing Dreamcast and I ended up doing C++ as well at Eden, and then later in Funcom. So yeah, I wish I had more things, especially a working version of HExplore. When I tried to install it on my PC, it crashed on startup, so maybe I could try on Wine. These days old stuff tend to work better on Linux with Wine than actually on Windows. So yeah, and I'm going to finish on this tag, which I don't even remember. It was probably some demo show. Hope it was interesting. I'm sorry for the lack of content. I have a lot more things about Arkane software, so stay tuned. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.